Hi, I'm Chef Diana from Lancaster Local Provisions. Welcome to my weekly cook-along. We have some really interesting vegetables in the marketplace this week. We have purple sprouting broccoli, watermelon radishes, and lots of apples. So what I want to do first with everybody is, now I think everyone has an Instant Pot, or everyone that I know has an Instant Pot. Johnny corrected me that some people might not have an Instant Pot, but my mother has been collecting her apples every week. And so she's been making this really delicious applesauce, so I stole her recipe, and we're gonna make it today. So I have about 8 apples, like medium apples. These are Pink Lady. You can do a mix. It's really whatever apples you have hanging around. Now I'm gonna use our Autumn Harvest spice blend. So it's a blend of cinnamon and clove, not pumpkin spice, but what you would think of as like a holiday spice. I'm gonna do about 1.5 tablespoons of the Autumn Harvest because I just think it's so delicious. You can just substitute plain old cinnamon, or you can even put in a little bit of ginger. I like a ginger applesauce as well. If you have frozen cranberries, you can throw some cranberries in there. I'm just going to toss this around till the apples are coated. This is the simplest applesauce recipe because it cooks in like 15 minutes, and it's very low sugar. So I'm going to place all my apples in my Instant Pot. Let's see if I can do this without spilling them everywhere. Oops, just a few rogue ones. That's fine. And it pretty much fills up the whole pot. So I wouldn't do any more than 8 medium apples. If they're larger apples, maybe do only 4 or 5. And I'm just going to put about 1/3 cup of water in the pot. This will keep it from burning. So I'm going to set it in here. I'm going to lock it. I'm going to set it to pressure cook for 5 minutes, and it's just going to do its own thing. So we're just going to ignore that, and we'll come back to that at the end of the segment. Now, meanwhile, I want to talk about, oh, it's beeping. So when it beeps like that, it means that it's locked. Now it's going to come up to pressure. It's going to cook for 5 minutes. Once the 5-minute cook time is over, then it's going to release all the pressure, and then it will be safe to open. So just follow the manufacturer's instructions. If you have a regular pressure cooker, you can cook it the same way. I'm just trying, this is my first Instant Pot recipe, so we'll see how it goes for y'all. Now I want to talk about my potato pillow recipe. This is a family friend's recipe. He always makes the best potatoes, and I finally asked him what he's been doing to them. So I have our delicious Eva potatoes. They're like a Yukon Gold potato, but a little bit more starchy. I personally love them. I think they're delicious. All I've done is I peeled them, cut them into 1/2-inch slices, and then I've either half mooned them if they've been if they've been sort of medium pieces, or I've made them into quarters. Now I boiled these in a pot of boiling water for about 10 minutes until they were knife tender, so I could pierce them with a knife, but they weren't crumbly. So what's going to happen is we've already sort of par cooked these. We're going to coat them in a little bit of oil, and then we're gonna roast them, and they're gonna be like so soft and pillowy on the inside and like nice and crispy on the outside. So I have a bowl here. I'm just gonna toss in my potatoes. Now I like sunflower oil. If you like olive oil, use olive oil, whatever your favorite oil is. I'm going to put about 2 tablespoons. You don't wanna skimp on your olive oil. And then I'm going to use a spice blend. I like our Garden Citrus spice blend we get from Calcuts. It has garlic, it has rosemary, thyme, coriander, pepper, all sorts of good stuff. You can use just plain salt and pepper, that's fine too. But I like something with a little bit of flavor. You can even just use dried rosemary. So I'm just going to toss that together. I'm going to put a little bit of salt. And then now I've coated it with oil and the spices. And now all I'm going to do is just place them on my roasting pan. And you want them in one sheet. You don't want them overlapping. And while I'm doing this, I'm actually going to throw my purple sprouting broccoli on there. All I'm going to do to those is they're sort of thick stalked, so I'm just going to sort of cut them in half lengthwise. So they look sort of like that. So that's one piece. And I love the sprouting purple broccoli. It's we've been sort of calling it a broccolini. It looks like broccoli rabe. Broccoli rabe is a little bit more bitter Then this is sort of like a sweet spring broccoli. What I love about it and how it's grown is that it can survive in -12 degrees Fahrenheit. So it's a very hardy vegetable, so you'll be seeing a lot of this in your boxes. You can use it the way that you would with regular broccoli. You can char it on the stove. You can put it in soup. I actually like putting it in soup a lot. So I'm going to do just drizzle a little plug of our sunflower oil. I'm going to put a bit of pepper and a bit of salt. So I'm going to pop these in the oven at 425 for about 10 minutes. And then we're going to flip the potatoes and cook it for another 10 to 15 minutes until they're nice and crispy. But while we're in the oven, I'm going to grab some other veggies I've been working with. So this week, I've been thinking a lot about how people eat and how we can cook. And I think about that every week. But especially this week, I've been thinking about like how people meal prep. And for Gabriel and I, it's always a challenge, during the week, how to eat a healthy lunch. Usually we're on the go, we're getting sandwiches to go, but I want to sort of set us up for success. So what I did is I took our golden beets, just cut them into small pieces. I have carrots that I peeled, and then I also peeled the beets. I then made little nice rounds, because I like different textures. I don't want them all to be like the same size and shape, because we eat with our eyes. And then I took our friend the kohlrabi, which I love. It's a great vegetable. It's a brassica. It's like a sweet tasting potato / cauliflower is how I explain the taste. And so I just cubed that up and put a little oil and salt and pepper on them. Now you can spice these however you want. If you have a favorite spice blend, go for it. I just baked these at 400 degrees for 20 minutes and they got really nice and crispy. So I'm just going to put them in front of me so I can use them. And then I want to talk about our farro that we have here today. So farro is a really wonderful grain. It's an Italian grain. It is an ancient grain and it's delicious. So this is what it looks like dried. This is what it looks like cooked. You cook it like pasta. So I brought a pot of boiling water up to boil, or pot of water up to boil, and then I threw in a cup of farro and I cooked it for about 10 minutes. You can cook it for 15 minutes if you want it to be really tender. I like mine a little al dente. But it's a wonderful thing that you can pre-cook to put in a grain bowl. You can cook it and serve it hot. I love it because it has a really nutty flavor. And it's similar to how you would use rice in a dish. So I got, Gabriel and I, these really cute. I went to Atlas General on Main Street here in Lidditz and got these great to-go containers. And I just think, because we eat with our eyes, it'd be nice to have a to-go container that was strictly for grain bowls, lunches, whatever. So you could just like prep it the night before and get going. So all I did is I cooked my farro for 10 minutes. And then what I did is I put it on a plate. I drained it, I put it on a plate, and actually put it outside to let it cool down. Because if you keep it in a bowl, it will just keep cooking and then it will be like mushy, and you don't want mushy farro, no. So I'm going to take about like a half a cup for me. And again, this is great for like lunches. I know even people who are, working from home, it's still nice to like prep your lunch in advance, just so you're not stuck thinking like, oh my gosh, what am I going to have for lunch today? So let's just work on our grain bowl. So I have my beautiful farro in the bottom of my bowl, and I'm going to add in my cooked veggies. I'm going to add in some raw veggies. I'm going to add in some sauerkraut. And this is just sort of like your favorite foods all together. So I have my grains. I'm going to put a little bit of the golden beets on the side. And again, like you're making a rainbow. So be really artistic with how you're putting things in the bowl. I love kohlrabi. And it's so delicious when it's roasted like that. Oh my gosh, love it. And then I'm going to put some of my carrots. And then you can put, so if you have some massaged kale, put some kale in there. I have some lettuce greens, so I'm going to rip up my lettuce. I'm not going to dress the greens until tomorrow when it's lunchtime, because I hate that. Like wilted greens that have been dressed, nobody wants that. I certainly don't want that. So I have a nice cup of greens. I have my beautiful roasted veggies. What I'm gonna do is I have some of my homemade sauerkraut. So if any of you got our provisions kraut, this is the same thing. It was so funny. Last night, Gabriel was eating this, and he was like, Diana, your sauerkraut is so good. And I was like, oh, like, how do you know that my sauerkraut's so good? And I forgot that I had some in the fridge. So I just found this. We have some kimchi. We'll be getting some more fermented foods in the marketplace shortly. I think I'm gonna put even some of the roasted broccoli that I got in my bowl. But that looks pretty delicious already. Now, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna show you guys one of my favorite vegetables. This is a watermelon radish. So I'm just gonna peel it. And why it's called a watermelon radish is that it looks like a watermelon when you cut it open. I got a really wonderful message from one of our regular provisions members, and she said that her 12-year-old son Liam now loves vegetable snacks because of the watermelon radish. So I think that's really cool. So look, if you have interesting vegetables, your kids will definitely respond. So all I'm gonna do, cut it in half. Now I'm just gonna make sort of half rim slices. Now I love watermelon radish. They're not spicy. Like if you think of radishes, you maybe think of like the small garden variety of radish, like French breakfast that are really spicy. These have a spice to them, but they're not overwhelmingly spicy. So I'm just gonna cut my moons into little triangles. I'm gonna make this really pretty in my green bowl. And this is so easy. Something you can do at night, before bed, just so you're setting yourself up for success in the morning. And there you go. How beautiful is that? So I'm just gonna let everything cool, and then I'll put the lid on it. And in the morning, if I'm going somewhere with my lunch, I'll make a little to-go container with my vinaigrette. But if not, I'll just dress this with a little bit of oil and vinegar. All right, so while we're waiting on our potatoes to continue roasting, I'm actually gonna make a really beautiful slaw that's super easy to make. So I'm gonna continue chopping my watermelon radish because who doesn't wanna eat pink food? Oh, but I forgot an apple. Let me get an apple. Another great tip is I wash my apples before I put them in the fridge, because then you just grab it out of the fridge and it's ready to go. It's no excuse not to have a healthy snack. So what I'm gonna do for this slaw is I'm gonna cut everything into a matchstick. So what a matchstick is I cut it into a slice, and now I'm gonna cut it into like little French fries or matchsticks. And I'm gonna cut all of my components for this dish into little matchsticks, so you'll have, in one bite, you'll very easily have all the different flavors. So I have, well, maybe I'll put a little bit more watermelon radish in there. So about half of a medium-sized watermelon radish. And we're actually gonna use the kohlrabi. You can eat it raw. It is delicious. Have you heard? Okay, so then I'm gonna cut, so I already used half of the kohlrabi in my roasted vegetables. They're really big this week, so be creative. It's a root vegetable. You can cook it like a potato. You can roast it, you can mash it, you can put it in soups, you can eat it raw, put it in your salad, put it in a slaw. All you have to do to prepare it is you just peel the skin. You can eat the skin, it's just really tough. So I'm just gonna do a couple slices. So this is like a quarter of a medium-sized kohlrabi. They get to be really big. These are green Cossack is the variety. So they're very hearty. So again, I like, if it's a dish like this, I want the pieces to be sort of the same size. I don't want really big chunks of something because it'll throw everything off. You can also make the slaw and then put it in your grain bowl too. And I know grain bowls are like really trendy, but they're a great way to eat your grain and your vegetables, and you know, I'm embracing it. I try not to be trendy. And then I'm just gonna cut my pink lady apple. I love apples, so I'm gonna do half of the apple. Pink lady are like my favorite variety of apple. They're a little tart, they're a little sweet. We love Kaufman's Fruit Farm that we get our apples from. They are just so wonderful. And their apples are just more delicious than what you get at the grocery store. I think my favorite story about pink lady apples is my cousin Philip. I turned him on to them, but he was always embarrassed to buy them at the grocery store because they were pink ladies. He's gotten over it. Okay, I have a very small bowl for this. So I'm going to transfer to my big bowl. And all I'm going to do, I'm going to put maybe like a tablespoon of my favorite oil, sunflower oil. And then I'm going to do about a half of a lemon worth of juice. If you don't have lemons, you can use, a berry flavored vinegar. You can use a rice vinegar. Don't use a balsamic though, that would be way too aggressive for this dish. So I'm going to put a nice squeeze of lemon, and this will actually, the acid from this will help the apple from not turning brown. And I'm just going to put a little bit of salt and my peppers here, and I'm just going to toss it around. This again is something you can make ahead. I usually make a slaw with some of the raw vegetables every Wednesday night, and then we just have them for a couple days, and we just throw them, if you grill a chicken breast, if you have a piece of tofu, you can just put this on the side. So what I love about this is the watermelon radish actually has dyed the apples a little pink, and that's wonderful. More pink food. All right, I'm going to check on our potatoes, and then we'll be working on those. All right, so I just took a little break because the potatoes were not done yet. But I've taken our beautiful purple broccoli sprouts. After 10 minutes, they were perfectly cooked. So I'm going to chop half of them up and put them in my grain bowl. They're so tender, and they have a nice flavor once they're roasted. And they have like a little crispiness to them. They're delicious. So I'm going to just put that on my grain bowl. I'm going to put the rest with my other roasted veggies to make Gabe's bowl for later. Now I'm going to bring out our potatoes. They are so delicious cooked like this. I cannot wait for you to try them. Look how golden. Do you hear that sound? That is the sound of crispiness. They are so golden brown. They are so beautiful. I'm just going to put them on my plate with the far just to cool down a little bit. I love eating them all the time. I make this potato recipe, I think at least twice a week now. We're just like totally obsessed with these. They're almost like French fries. So you can, make a dipping sauce. You can make a yogurt, garlic dipping sauce. You can use ketchup. You can try different spice blends. Really, the potato is your vehicle. So now I've cooked my applesauce for 5 minutes. It took about 10 minutes to release the steam. And now, oh, look at that, that's so exciting. So I like a more smooth applesauce. Some people like a more chunky applesauce. But you can see, look at that. They're like perfectly cooked. There's a little bit of liquid in there. It smells amazing. And the apples are really starting to break down. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use my immersion blender. I love my immersion blender. They're so great. I use this a lot when I'm making soups or stews. It's such a handy thing. You don't have to transfer whatever you're making into a bowl and then your food processor. If you like a chunkier applesauce, you can just use like a potato masher. I like a more homogenized, smoother sauce. So all I'm going to do, be careful, it's hot. But I'm just sort of gently, these apples, let me show you. This is like instant applesauce. If you have a small child that doesn't eat that much, this is a great way to make easy, low sugar baby food. Now I'm going to leave some chunks in here. That's perfect. So you add a little bit of water just so that it doesn't stick to the bottom of the Instant Pot. If you're making regular applesauce, you do the same thing. Put that aside. Now I'm going to taste it. It's going to be really hot. Be careful. If your apples are really sweet, you probably don't have to add sugar. That's pretty sweet. I'm just going to add about a 1/4 cup of sugar. Now you can, if you made a lot, you can just put it in a container, freeze it, or you can leave it in, oh, this isn't even opened. How exciting. You can just leave it in your fridge for up to 2 weeks just in a container. It won't last that long. So I'm just going to put a 1/4 cup of raw sugar in here. You can use a brown sugar, you can use a white sugar, whatever sugar you got going on in your life. And this is the point where you add the sugar. If you add the sugar when we're cooking it, it could burn an Instant Pot. And if you have an Instant Pot and you burned things at the bottom, which I have many times, it's just never fun. So there you go. That's our like really easy 5-minute applesauce. That looks so delicious. I can't wait to try it. But yeah, it makes about like 1.5 quarts, 2 quarts. And it's just a wonderful low sugar snack. And it sort of feels decadent. It's a little different than eating a raw apple. So delicious. Oh my gosh. Thank you, Mom, for this wonderful idea. So we have our delicious applesauce. I hope you can see it. Yeah, you can see it. And again, you can add ginger, you can do it with pears, you can add cranberries in there. Just go wild. We have our potato pillows. Cannot wait for you to try this recipe. They're like the best potatoes on the earth. Oh, try it. You'll love it. And then we have our beautiful green bowl with our roasted vegetables. So we have our purple sprouting broccoli, our raw watermelon radish, our roasted carrots, kohlrabi, and beets. We have some homemade sauerkraut. If you have cabbage left over from last week, find my sauerkraut video on Facebook. It's really easy. We have our farro hidden down there, and we just have some spring lettuce mix. So there you go, folks. Easy weeknight dinner prep for lunch too. So thank you for tuning in. I'm Chef Diana with Lancaster Local Provisions, and happy eating.